My name is Catherine Parr. A month ago I was the Queen of England, the wife of King Henry VIII. Henry died and we buried him last week in St. George's Church, Windsor. 2 days ago, on the 16th of February 1547, I went back to the Palace of Whitehall, which was once my home. I wanted to take my letters and books and bring them back to my house. Margaret, my new maid, came to the palace with me. She's very young and doesn't know a lot about the world. She has only just come up to London from her home in Somerset. Perhaps I was like her when I was 12. I, too, was always asking questions and wanting answers immediately. 2 days ago I went back to the Palace of Whitehall. When we arrived at the palace, it was cold and dark. We walked into Henry's room. I sat down in one of Henry's large chairs in front of his wooden writing desk and looked at the pictures around the room. Next to me there was a big picture of Henry when he was young. He was very handsome then, not like the fat old man he was later. I thought his blue eyes were watching me. I turned to Margaret and said, "You see that picture of the king? That's what he was like when he was young. Tall and strong and handsome. People say that he never got tired. He could go out, riding all day, changing his horses 9 or 10 times, and then he could dance all night. He was clever, too. He could speak 5 languages. Will people remember him like that, or will they only remember him because he had 6 wives?" "Did he really have so many wives?" said Margaret. "Yes, of course. I thought that everyone knew that." Margaret looked away and said, "We didn't get much news from London at home, and my family's house is a long way from the nearest village." "It doesn't matter," I said, smiling. "One day, I'll tell you the story of my husband, Henry's life." On the desk in front of me there was a wooden box with a large gold H on the top. I opened it slowly and took out some old letters. Each letter was in different writing and some of them were old and yellow. One letter had a picture of a large bird on it. It was from Henry's second wife, Anne Boleyn. "Margaret," I said, "I've found some letters from Henry's other wives. There's also a beautiful gold necklace and a small piece of hair." I looked at another letter. "Here's one old letter from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. She was married to him for a very long time. She only had 1 child, didn't she?" said Margaret. "Yes, only Princess Mary is still alive. There were 5 other children, but they were all born too early and died." Again I looked at the letter with the picture of the bird on it. "Have you heard of Anne Boleyn, Margaret?" "Yes, my mother talked about her. She said she was a very bad woman." "Well, that's what some people say. Anne was the mother of Henry's second daughter, Princess Elizabeth." "Look," I said, "this one is from Catherine Howard, Henry's 5th wife. Both Anne and Catherine were beheaded in that terrible prison, the Tower of London." "Why did the king send them to their deaths?" asked Margaret. She looked afraid. "They had many enemies, who told the king that they had lovers. Perhaps the stories were true, I don't know. But the king believed them." I looked at another letter. "This one is from Jane Seymour. She was the 3rd wife and the mother of Henry's only living son. He is now our king, Edward the 6th. Was Jane Seymour beheaded too? Asked Margaret. No. Poor Queen Jane died soon after Edward was born. I looked at the last, short letter. Look. A letter from Anne of Cleves, Henry's fourth wife. Did she have any children? Asked Margaret. No. I laughed. Henry thought that Anne was very ugly and he didn't want her to be the mother of his children. Margaret was silent. Then she said, King Henry sounds like a terrible husband. He wasn't all bad, Margaret. There were good times, too. He was clever at so many things. Horse riding and tennis, writing and playing music. He wrote many beautiful songs, and he had a wonderful singing voice. But it's true that he wasn't very kind to his wives. Margaret looked at the box. So why did he keep these letters from them? She asked. Oh, you ask so many questions, Margaret. I don't know. Perhaps each letter says something important. I looked up and saw that it was nearly dark. It was time to go home to Chelsea Manor. I put the letters back inside the box. Come, Margaret, we must go now. But can't we read the letters? She asked. We'll take them with us and read them tomorrow. Chapter 2. Catherine of Aragon. We got up early the next morning and went to my favorite room. It has a wonderful view of the large gardens and the River Thames at the bottom. Did you sleep well, Margaret? I asked. I dreamed that King Henry came back to life and sent me to the Tower of London. Why did he do that? Because in my dream I read the letters and he was angry with me. Perhaps it will be bad luck if we read them, said Margaret, worried. Don't worry, I said. It was only a dream. He can't do anything now. He's dead. I went over to the wooden box and opened it. We'll read the letter from Catherine of Aragon first, I said. She was Spanish, wasn't she? Said Margaret. Yes. She first came over to England to marry Henry's brother Arthur, but he died. She then married Henry and was his wife and queen for 24 years. What a long time. What happened to her? Did she go to the Tower of London? 2. No. Henry divorced Catherine because he wanted a son, and she only gave him a daughter, Princess Mary. Years before, Catherine did have a son, Henry, Prince of Wales, but he died when he was only 7 weeks old. The king wanted a son very much. He was in love with Anne Boleyn, but he also wanted a new wife, a younger woman to give him sons. Poor Catherine, divorced after 24 years for a younger woman. Margaret looked at the letter in my hand. Can we read the letter now, my lady? Yes. Let's sit down by the window and read it together. But I can't read, said Margaret, looking at the floor. That's all right. I'll read it for you. We sat down and I began to read it slowly. Dear Henry, when you left Windsor last week, you didn't say goodbye. I feel lonely and unhappy without you. When will I see you again? Please come back soon. You know that I am your true wife. We have been married for more than 20 years in the eyes of God. I have given you a daughter, Princess Mary, God took from us our other children. I wanted so much to give you a son, but God's plan for us was different, and we cannot change that. I pray for you every day and ask for you to come back to me. I have never been untrue to you, Henry, and have always been a good wife, and a good mother too. Our daughter, I am still your queen. There is only one Queen of England, and that is me. I know that you are with Anne Boleyn, but you will never be happy with her. I am the daughter of a king, and she is not. You must not divorce me. The Pope and the Catholic Church will never agree to this. I am sending you a necklace with a gold cross. Henry, when you look at it, remember me and remember the Catholic Church. Your Queen Catherine of Aragon. So what happened to Catherine? Asked Margaret. Did she ever see the king again? No, never. He divorced her. She lived a lonely life with only a few friends, and died a broken and unhappy woman about 10 years ago. What about the Catholic Church? Did the Pope agree to the divorce? No, he didn't. So Henry broke with the Pope and the Catholic Church, and that's how the Church of England began. The king became head of the church, and the Pope and the Catholics were very angry. It made a lot of trouble both in England and Europe, and all because of Anne Boleyn, said Margaret. Not only that, you see, it was very important for the king to have a son, to be king after him. There has only ever been one queen in England, and that was a terrible time, with a lot of fighting and killing. Henry didn't want that to happen again after his death, so he knew that he must have a son, not just daughters. And that's really why he divorced Catherine and married again. And was he sad when Catherine died? Sad? Oh no. He dressed in yellow and danced all night with his new queen. Margaret looked inside the box and found the gold necklace. She held it to her neck. Poor Catherine, she said softly. King Henry was a terrible husband to her.